So here's the thing. Cancer is one of those things that affects almost all of us in some way. Whether it's a family member, a friend, or even yourself. Chances are we all know someone who's been through it. It's not an easy topic, but it's an important one, and it's part of my story too. Take a seat. This is the Life Bench. As always, thank you to everyone for your continued support on this journey. I'll never not appreciate the messages or comments of encouragement I receive. I actually had one on YouTube the other day from a stranger, and it was just a reminder that it's not always obvious the effect that you're having or the progress that you're making, but it is happening, even when you can't see it. So last week I spoke about facing fear and taking action. And as some of you may have seen if you follow the Instagram page, it led me to record myself speaking on camera for the first time. After I finished recording the podcast episode, I realised I could hardly say all of those things and not really follow through myself. There was no reason for me to be scared, and the fear was all in my head. It was uncomfortable at first, but I did it and realised it wasn't a big deal at all. Hopefully, my journey with this podcast, last week's episode, or even that video, can maybe be a bit of inspiration to show you that you don't need to be afraid and you can do whatever you want. Because honestly, if you've got a dream, an idea, or a project that you want to start, just go for it. So this week's topic is cancer, and I'm sure it will be heavier than the last few weeks, but it's one I've wanted to do for a little while, as it's touched my life personally, and I know most of you listening will have had or be experiencing cancer in some form. I also wanted to do it because recently I had a checkup for skin cancer, and I wanted to share that with you. So I'll cover that later in the episode. The experiences I'm going to talk about, I'm only going to share it from my perspective and what I've experienced. I'm mindful not to go into details that aren't mine to share. So the first time I can remember coming across cancer was involving my granddad. I was fairly young and we weren't particularly close, so I don't remember a whole lot. But as I've got older and had more conversations with family members, I've learnt a little bit more about how the disease affected him and his attitude towards it. He was diagnosed in 2002 with squamous cell carcinoma, caused by a small mark just on the inside of his nose. Almost certainly caused by the fact that he loved being out in the sun. And without going into too much detail, as the disease spread, I know it affected his face quite severely. The main thing I've learned, and often think about, was his attitude and how he handled the situation. He was always a straight-talking, no-nonsense type of person. Someone who didn't mince his words and told people exactly how he felt. He also had a very dark sense of humour. And all of these traits never changed throughout his cancer journey. He would speak openly and often candidly about his cancer and impending death, because despite being given a 95% chance of survival, he always maintained that the cancer was still with him, despite all the treatment he underwent. And I think it was almost as if he'd accepted nothing more could be done. And I think this attitude was just him being true to who he was, right up till the very end, when, in 2004, he lost his battle with cancer. In 2017, his wife, my step-grandmother, faced a battle with breast cancer. I was a lot closer to this as we worked together, and I remember her treatment program being quite intense. She travelled to London 5 days a week for a long period of time. And when I did see her, you could see how much the treatment was taking its toll. But she remained resilient and determined to beat it. She also retained her humour, and if she was ever scared, she never let on to me. She got the all clear in 2019. Before I recorded this episode, I spoke to her briefly just to get her thoughts, and she said two things which stuck with me and I'd like to share with you. One was that everyone she's come across that's battling cancer has always shown that same dark sense of humour. And it made me wonder if that is some sort of coping mechanism or a way to help process the situation. The other is that cancer never leaves you. She said that even when you get the all clear and you don't require any more treatment, the thoughts and feelings around it are always there. It's not quite fear, but it just sits with you always. Andy's battle started back in 2014 with skin cancer. I remember visiting him at his home not too long after the operation. It was a very invasive procedure, and I know that he felt self-conscious. We'd sit and talk like we always did, sometimes go for a walk around the village. I remember, certainly with me, he was always positive. At the same time, being aware of how serious the situation was. When it returned some years later, I noticed he was a bit more concerned and a little less optimistic. But even then, there was a strength about him that stood out. We could tell each other anything, and not once did he come across scared or frightened. And that's something I'll always keep close with me. Whenever we spent time together or messaged, that same strength was always there. And even though I wasn't with him at the end, I won't forget the courage that he showed throughout it all. Not a day goes by that I don't think of him, and I miss him a lot. And then last year in 2024, cancer became part of my story. Amber had noticed a small mark on the side of my face and pushed for me to get it checked. Now I'll admit I'm reluctant to visit the doctor, not because I'm scared, more because I normally think it's nothing serious and will sort itself out on its own. But I did go, and it was diagnosed as Basal Cell Carcinoma. At the time, the doctor said it was unusual for someone my age to have it, so that made me a little concerned. It was promptly removed, and I was given advice on what to do going forward. As I say, I was a little concerned, but the more I learnt about it, the more I found out that it's a non-melanoma skin cancer, and that it develops more slowly and is less likely to spread. It can also often be treated easier than the others. The main causes is ultraviolet light, which comes from the sun and is used in sunbeds. Now, I've never used a sunbed in my life, but I haven't always been strict on using sun cream, whether I'm in this country or on holiday. However, since then, I've been a lot more mindful of my skin and staying protected. I use a factor 50 SPF all year round, cover up with clothes if it's not too hot, stay in the shade when I can, and also look out and pay attention to any changes of my skin. As I mentioned earlier, a couple of weeks ago, I had a skin cancer checkup. A specialist checked my entire body, and she pointed out a few different areas that I need to keep an eye on, as well as reminded me of the things that I need to do for prevention. There was an area I was concerned about, close to where the first bit of basal cell was removed, but after examination, she said there were no worrying features detected. The results letter that I received stated that due to a prior personal history and or family history, I'm in a higher risk category, and it's recommended that I have the assessment every year. I'd be lying if I say I wasn't a little worried, but it's a reminder of the importance of protection and staying vigilant of my skin. The checkup, combined with my experiences and stuff that I've learnt, means I'm a lot more conscious of my health. I try to do more of the things that are proven to have a positive impact on us. I gave up smoking in 2013, which is one of the best decisions I've ever made. I barely drink any alcohol. I try to eat well majority of the time, I strength train and do cardio, as well as being active in other ways. I also focus on having a good sleep routine. I'm not perfect by any means, and never have it all in tune 100% of the time. And of course there's an element of luck involved, like with anything. But I'm trying to stack the odds in my favour and give myself the best chance with my health. I'm sure we all know someone whose grandparents did all the wrong things and lived to a ripe old age. Amber's gran was one of these examples. She smoked her whole life, didn't exercise other than walking, ate ready meals and loved a Yorkie, yet she made it into her late 80s. But I think it's important to try and give yourself the best chance with things. It doesn't mean I live in fear or let it stop me from doing things. I'm just mindful of situations and proactive in what I can do. There are more than 200 different types or subtypes of cancer affecting the body in different ways. Some are more common, others are rarer and harder to detect. It can feel very overwhelming and everyone faces a different battle. But that's why I think it's important to do the things that are proven to help lower the risks. None of it can guarantee protection, but it will be making a difference. I think the awareness is key. We can't control everything, but our daily choices can give us the best chance of staying as healthy as we can. Of course, none of what I've said is medical advice. I'm not a doctor or specialist by any means. I'm just saying the things that I've learned and what I'm doing for myself. Each of these experiences has left its mark on me, and I've tried to take something from all of them, whether it's resilience, honesty, strength, or simply a reminder to be proactive about my own health. And while these stories are personal to me, I think pretty much everyone could tell their own version, because cancer is something that almost all of us encounter in some way. Almost everyone knows someone who's been affected by it. A family member, a friend, a work colleague. It's one of those things nearly all humans will experience. It's something that sits close to home for many of us. And I think that's one of the reasons it hits so hard when we hear that word. Of course, there's the association with death and loss, the feeling that cancer is the inevitable terminal disease. But it also hits hard because it's not just one person's diagnosis. It impacts everyone around them. It can change so much. Yet despite it affecting so many of us, it's still such a difficult subject to talk about. Just like grief, there's no right thing to say, no perfect words to make it any easier. Sometimes it can be incredibly awkward, or you worry about saying the wrong thing. But often, just being there and showing you care is what matters most. And that's why I think it's important we don't shy away from these conversations, as difficult as they are. The thing is, while cancer is one of the most difficult things people face, there is also a huge amount of hope. It's hard for me to even say that, and it's probably hard to hear when you've lost someone close to you, because some of these advances will come too late. But there have been some incredible advances made over the last decade, and survival rates are higher than they've ever been. There are many cancers which used to carry no options, but that are now treatable. Research is constantly moving forward, and all of this gives people real hope. Things change so quickly. Every year there seems to be a new discovery, new trial, or new technology to try and help combat this disease. Progress is always happening even when we don't see it. And again, it's hard for me to say, but I think it's something worth holding on to. Because when you hear the word cancer, it's so easy for your mind to jump straight to fear and think of the worst case scenarios. But there is the other side. People are surviving, living longer, living well. And that's down to the amazing doctors and scientists who dedicate their lives to the cause. Beyond the science and research, there's also the human side of progress. The way people come together to support others, the fundraising and charity events, the awareness campaigns, and more people sharing their stories so others don't feel alone. This is all progress. It isn't just about the fight in the laboratories or hospitals. It's the fight every day that real people face. It's a horrible disease. It's affected me and the people I love in devastating ways. It will have affected or be affecting many of you. And unfortunately, many more of you in the future. But it's not all darkness. There is hope. There is progress. And as hard as that is, I want to and think we need to think about both sides. The reality and the hope. Because both are true. For me personally, like with grief, I've experienced a whole range of emotions, from worry and fear to anger and sadness. But in the same way as grief, the more I faced it and talked about it, the more it's helped me. Also, I found learning and reading different books has helped. Outlive is a book by Dr. Peter Attia. It's about the science and art of longevity. In it, he talks about extending the years lived in good health by trying to prevent diseases of Alzheimer's, heart disease, type 2 diabetes and cancer. He advocates for a proactive approach to health. And it's a great book. I highly recommend it. It's quite factual, but it's a very good read. The other book I've taken so much from is called A Beginner's Guide to Dying by Simon Boas. Now, you may not think that you'd want to read a book with that title, but again, I highly recommend that you do. Simon was diagnosed with advanced throat cancer at 46 in 2023. Despite some treatment, the cancer had already spread and nothing could be done. He wrote an article for his local newspaper when he was diagnosed, and a further 2 articles about this diagnosis and his approach to life. This book is those 3 articles and an expansion on these ideas and thoughts. Simon talks about the things that have given him a great sense of peace and contentment, and why dying at 46 really isn't so bad. It will make you laugh and almost certainly cry. It's as much about dying as it is about living, and it celebrates human resilience and reminds us all to enjoy life while we have it. It's a hard but amazing read at the same time, and it's helped me reframe the way I think about cancer, life and death. A little secret that only Amber knows about me, although everyone that listens to this will now know. I'm terrified of dying. I really don't want it to happen. To the point where it keeps me up at night or causes me severe distress or panic. I've had this fear for as long as I can remember, and I've no understanding of why. I manage it as best as I can, and I found that reading books like this and learning more has helped. I think knowledge can be empowering, and we should all strive to know more. I think one of the biggest things I've taken from all of this is perspective. When you see people you love go through cancer, or when you face it yourself, it changes the way you look at life. Suddenly the small everyday worries don't seem as important anymore. You start to notice the little things you used to take for granted. Episode 4, by the way, if you haven't already listened to that one. It's a reminder that life is precious and extremely fragile. None of us know how much time we have. That can sound heavy, but if you change perspective, it can be incredibly freeing instead. Because it pushes you to live with more awareness, to be present, to look after yourself, and to make the most of the time and opportunities that you do have. None of this is easy, I've said that before, but with a bit of work it can be done. For me, it's about a balance, being mindful of my health and the risks, but not letting it control me. I'm trying to live a bit more of a fuller life, to keep moving forward and connect with the people and things that truly matter. So that's been cancer. It's heavy, it's difficult to talk about, but it's something many of us face in one way or another. If anyone listening is going through this, whether it's personally or with someone you love, I want to send my support, and I hope you know you're not alone. Be kind to yourself, lean on the people around you, and remember that even in the hardest times, there's hope and strength to be found. And if you want to reach out, my messages are always open. Thank you, as always, for listening to this podcast. It really does mean a lot. Every week that I do this, I come up with more and more ideas where I want to take this whole thing. There's really not enough hours in the day. I'll do the same spiel of asking you, if you haven't already, please rate and review wherever you listen. Follow the Instagram page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've now conquered my initial fear of talking to the camera, so there may well be more videos like that coming. Continue to reach out and let me know your thoughts. Feedback is always taken on board. Or if you've had an experience with cancer and want to share it, then please do. I was torn between two quotes this week to end with. The first one was by a computer science professor named Randy Pausch. He was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer in 2007. In the same year, he gave an upbeat lecture entitled The Last Lecture, Really Achieving Your Childhood Dream, which you can find on YouTube. In it, he said, "We cannot change the cards we are dealt, just how we play the hand." I think his words inspire resilience and the importance of perspective in the face of adversity. I had to end, though, with one by Simon Boas, as his book has had quite a profound effect on me. The quote comes from one of his final interviews, and I think it encapsulates his optimistic and accepting approach to his terminal diagnosis and his final days on earth. Knowing I'm going to die, it's easier to concentrate on kindness and the best in people. I'm leaving life loving it and everybody in it.